So according to the question, I'm going to use Tally System software, and when I open, I'll go to the screen that displays the gateway of Tally. And before I start, my name is Ruth Agume, doing BSAF. And I first go to company info so that I can create my company before I start. No. Company info, I go to create company, and the company name is Mark Traders Company Limited, which is the same as the mailing name. Statutory compliance, I use none. Then the email is mark@africaonline.co.ug. Currency is UGX according to the question. Then I maintain accounts with Eventually. My financial year runs from 1st January 2023. I do not use any password or security control. Then I'm going to use the full name of the currency, which is Ugandan shilling. Then decimal places, I use 0. Suffix to amounts, I say yes. Then currency in millions, yes. Then put space between amount and symbol, no. My decimal places, I need 0. So I now allow input so that I can start working. So I've been successful. I go back to the gateway of Tally. Then I first update my date. Yes, it is updated, current period. Then I go to accounts info so that I can create ledgers. Then I say create, and they're saying they are operating a bank account in Centenary Bank. So I create Centenary Bank. I group it under bank account, and they do not have any opening balances, and I proceed. So I go back, then I use multiple here. So in multiple, I want to first put in companies, customers, and those are the sundry debtors. Then the first one is traders, and the opening balance is 3 million. Then the second one is Peter Dunn. They do not have the opening balance. Then the next is Munene Auto Dealers. The opening balance is 1 million. Then the fourth one is Kalas Auto Spares. And it is 800,000. So I accept. And when I go back to this, I'm going to use multiple still so that I can input the creditors, the sundry creditors who are the suppliers. One, we have Kavale Sisters. It is 1.7. The second one is Masaka Traders. it is 1.5. Then the third one is Madura Importers. They don't have the opening balance. So from there, I go to inventory info and I input in the details for the inventory, and I'll first with the units. So I put in the symbol, then the full name of the unit of measure, and the next is liters, that is the symbol, and in full liters. Then I go back because those are the only two, and then I say stock item creation. The first one is motorcycles. The symbol is in units. I say yes for the standard rates. Then I put in the standard rates. The opening is 4 million. Then the selling price is 4.8. Here, the costing method, I can use FIFO. Then the market price, I can use standard rates. Then the opening quantity is 8, and we use it for the cost price. And the second one is generators. Then it is in units. I say yes to the standard rates. The cost price is 2.7. Then the selling price is 3.5 million. So I can still use FIFO standard price. Then the opening quantity is 6, and at the cost price of 2.7. Then the third one is oil. It is in liters. I say yes to the opening balances, and the cost price is 10,000. The selling price is 16,000. Then I can use FIFO standard price as the market price, and the opening quantity is 10 at the cost price of 10,000, which gives us 100,000. Then I say servicing. Servicing, it has no standard rates, and I don't put in the value. So I go back. Now those are the opening balances, and I straight away go to accounting vouchers so that I can input in the details. So the first transaction, begins from 2nd January 2023. And I'm going to debit. They say they deposited 40 million to bank account. So I'm going to debit. I'm going to create the capital account, which is going to be credited. And I will put it under credit, under capital. I accept, but I'm going to debit my Centenary Bank because it is the account which is receiving. That is 40 million. Then I'm going to credit my capital with the 40 million. So I go to from the bank for the contra entry. 2023. Then the receiving amount is cash. The receiving account is cash, and I credit the Centenary Bank with 10 million. Then the narration, I can say, being a withdraw from the bank. I accept, then I go to the third transaction, obtained a loan. This one I can say, I can use a ledger, and it can either be received through cash or bank, but let me receive it by cash. And that is 100 million. Then I credit the loans account, which I'm going to use secondary creation. Can say bank loan. Then I can put it into loans liability. Then credit it with 100 million. And I accept. Then I go to transaction, the next transaction, and they're saying they sold 5 motorcycles and 3 generators and banked cash immediately. So I can go to receipt, edit my date to correspond with the transaction, which is 4th January 2023. They said they banked cash immediately. So meaning I'm going to use Centenary, and then here being sales, I first create sales using secondary creation. Then it will be put under sales account. It is inventory values are affected. So I'm going to say motorcycles, they sold 5, and the cost price will input itself because I set it using the standard prices, the standard rates. Then I say generators, they sold 3, and that is the amount. So I can put the narration saying, being a sale, being sales and cash banked. So I accept, and we go to the next transaction. So they're saying they bought 500 liters of engine oil. So I can still go to payment. I can go to purchase. I first edit my date. And the date is 6th January 2023. So here we can use cash, yes. Then we create the purchases ledger. We create the account for purchases using secondary creation, and it will go to the purchase account. It is the inventory values are affected. Then I put in oil as the purchase. The quantity is 100, and the cost price inputs itself, and I accept. So the next transaction is bought. So I now go to, yes, it is still a purchase. So I first edit the date. The date is 7th January 2023. Then here they're saying from Kabale Sisters and paid half. So I'll put in this transaction in this way. I'll first put in the Kabale Sisters as the party involved. Then I select purchases. Then the engine oils are the motorcycles as the name of the item, and I will put in 4. And I accept. Then on the same date of 6th January 2023, I will say it was by and made payment by check, half payment by check. I select Centenary, then purchases, I say motorcycles, and I put in the 4 which were paid, and then I end my list and I accept. Then the next transaction says sold 10 generators, 10 liters of engine oil, and serviced 5 generators. So I come here to sales, and then for that I first edit my date. The date is 10th January 2023. So I can use by cash, that the sales were made by cash. No, let me use a receipt by cash. And then I put in the details here. It will be under sales. I select sales, and they sold oil, and the quantity is 10. Then I enter. Then here, servicing. I select servicing. And since now they're saying that they serviced 5 generators and each was 5, that is 150,000. I accept the transaction. Then I go to sold 6 motorcycles and 2 generators for cash to Munad Auto Dealers. Let me use sales and then say Muna Auto Dealers. Then I select the sales ledger as sales. Then 6 motorcycles. There are 6. Then generators are 2. Then here, discount. I'm going to use secondary creation and create discount. Allowed. So it will be under sales. It is affected, inventory values are affected, and I say -2 because it is 2%. Then I accept and put the narration as sales on 2% discount. I accept the transaction. Then the next says cleared Masaka Traders debt by cash. I'll go to to payment. Here it is by cash. My date is 12 January 2023. Then it is cash, and we are clearing Masaka Traders on account. It is against the reference. Now let me use then they're saying cleared the following expenses by check. So it is done on 12th January 2023. It is by check, centenary. So I use secondary creation and create fuel. It is under indirect expenses. Then I say 600,000. Then I create another rent. It is under indirect expense, which is 200. Then I create office indirect expense 1,000. Then I create another one, electricity. It is an indirect expense, and it is 480,000. Then another one is audit fees, which is 200. Then they're paying again electricity, that is 500. Then I put in my narration as clearing expenses by check. So that transaction is over. Then they're saying that January 25th, January 2023, they paid by cash, so we are maintaining our cash, and they are paying salary to Amanda. I'm going to create Amanda and I input him under expenses, and that is 300. Then I again create Katate under expenses, and that is 200. This is salary payment. I accept. Then there is another transaction with withdrew 500, and this was withdrawn from the bank for private use. I'm going to use a journal and I'm going to debit the drawings account. So drawings are the expenses to the business. I accept. That is, they withdrew 500. 500 million thousand, and then I credit Centenary because it was withdrawn from the bank. It is a withdraw for private use. I accept. Then another transaction is bought a computer for office use. Can use a journal to input. Then the date is, there is no date, but we can use the upper one of 25th January 2023. Then we create the computer, then we can say it is an asset for the business and it was bought at 2 million. So they are not indicating whether it is by cash or bank. So any that we can use is appropriate. I'm using cash and my narration being a purchase of a computer. Then I enter. So those are the transactions that we have. Then I'm going to go back and then view my reports, first with the balance sheet, then I show the detail. And when you press on the detail, then you're able to view the details of all your information, all your transactions in the balance sheet. So when I go back, I go to the profit and loss, I still select detailed and I'm able to view all the details here. Then I go back on display, then I go to the trial balance, also detailed. Then I can view these transactions that I have entered. Then when you want to view the stock, then you can go to the stock summary and we are able to view the details within the stock that we have entered. So that is all we can have for today. I remain Ruth Agume doing BSAF, and that is all I had for you. Thank you. wahirwa ashanga namaze recordinga nani kugaruka mushi yowe naheza ngo mera azum ni kwataka video hata nikondi ni nkoronda babine retake ibine yo konkati kuri tutasiya meria retake yonka konkanji chishobuye cyo abareba kare naherze konka come on